Microsoft did their job for them. When the PlayStation 4 launched up against the Xbox One in 2013, Microsoft screwed up their marketing so badly that Sony could have re-released the PlayStation 3 and probably still won. The fact that Microsoft forced users to also buy the Kinect camera with the console, forced users to be always online, and focused almost completely on how the next-gen Xbox would work as a TV box rather than a games console. It made it almost too easy for Team Blue. Sony even took to the stage to rip apart the Xbox One's deliberate inability to play borrowed games.
This is how you share your games on PS4. Thanks.
And it was pretty much game over at that point. Now, when you add to this that the PS4 was also insanely well designed, it starts to make sense why it completely popped off. Like, check out the new DualShock 4 controller. It incorporates the DualShock tech from the PS2 controller and the 6-axis motion sensing from the PS3 controller, and it makes both aspects much more refined. The analog sticks are now also further apart, and they're concave for better grip. There's a new share button, which reflects the shift to social gaming. Plus, we've now also got an RGB LED light on the front as an identifier for which player you are, a speaker in the controller itself for a directional sound experience, and even a 2-inch touchpad in the middle for menu navigation. I remember the moment that I got to hold one of these for the first time, and I was just sat there like an idiot, like turning it over and over in my hands for 10 minutes straight, thinking, holy cow, this is real. The PS4 is about 10 times more powerful than the PS3, making it, the numbers are getting kind of out of hand at this point, about 3,800 times as powerful as the PS1. It had 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is 32 times the PS3, and 4,096 times the original PlayStation. And not to mention that because the PS4 is based off a less custom, more standard PC-like architecture, it was way easier for developers to work with it and fully extract that power. You know, this kind of reminds me of the really early days of this channel. I remember when the PS4 launched, we had about 10,000 subscribers. I know that because we used to cover tons of gaming content at the time, but I would stick to handhelds because I would never dream of spending this much on one console. I know this section is all about the PS4, but all I can hear is this PS3. So this is actually quite exciting. This is the first time you can turn the console on with the controller. So this is very much a refined version of the PS3's home screen, much more blocky in style. Oh my God, listen to it. It's louder than the PS3! There was me thinking this was going to be a nice, sleek, quiet machine. I only half blame Sony. This room that we're in is basically a sauna right now. Let's boot up the game. You can also tell the text is way sharper and more readable now. You can actually now pick the exact time of day of your race, and it will affect the weather conditions accordingly. You can feel such a visceral difference. The density of the crowd, the light coming directly from the sun. Right, so I've actually filled up a bag with ice just to cool it down, because this is getting ridiculous. I'm gonna lay it on top of the ice pack. In my mind, this is what a modern racing game looks like. The game almost has like an atmosphere that the other ones lack. Excuse my driving. I can actually also notice a bit of realistic damage on my car, so upgraded physics too. What do you do with this much power then? Well, I mean, just for starters, a further doubling of the resolution to now 1080p or Full HD. The PS4 could happily fill a 40-inch TV and not look like it was being stretched. And it also just gave developers the headroom to be creative, to build not just detailed backgrounds, but fully open worlds, to execute their visions in their entirety. Plus, they could now add pretty much any visual effect they could think of. Dirt particles, motion blur, realistic fog, and it's in these details where you really feel the difference versus the PS3. So when you combine all of this with the fact that the PlayStation 4 also launched at a much friendlier $500 in today's money, it's not surprising that it went on to sell 120 million units, more than doubling Microsoft's competing Xbox One. PS5 firmly pushes it aside,